Welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute devotional podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse. Broadcast from the ever-beautiful Sharonville, Ohio, on the sunny side of Cincinnati. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Today we're looking at Psalm 140. This is a Psalm of David, and it's of the chief musician, so this is a good one. We're going to look at this all this week. I think it's like 13 verses long, so we're going to take it a little bit at a time. This psalm is divided already for us by the Selahs. You'll notice each time the Selah occurs, we're going to follow that as a division. Now, there's only 3 Selahs, and we have more material than that, so we'll see how it's divided up as we go through this week. This one is different. Now, remember the previous two, 139 and 138, were me and thee psalms. This is not. This is the violent man versus the righteous man. This is the Psalm of David. And so we know where this is coming from. We know that, out of David's experience of having to be a man of war and a man of blood, that the violent man was somebody that he came up against quite often. And so we read this psalm and we think, well, how does that apply to me? But ladies and gentlemen, there is a violent one who is after you, and he will stop at nothing to defeat you. We're going to look at that this week as we find our way through here. There's a lot in here about the mouth and the heart and prayer to the Lord. There's a great prayer right smack in the middle of this psalm. So we'll see all of that as we go through here. Why don't you let me read for you verses 1, 2, and 3 today. And these 3 verses will begin our week in Psalm 140. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Selah. Now you'll notice lots of things here. Actually, you'll notice the imperatives that are here. Deliver me, preserve me, are 2 great big requests that he makes right here at the very beginning. The violent man is present. We're not introduced to him later. We just jump right into the situation. The violent man is going to be a theme all the way through this psalm. We see him here in verse 1, again in verse 4. We have him again in verse 11. So he happens over and over again. And then we have these designations that feed into this idea of violence, the mischief, the wicked, the proud. All of these designations feed into this idea of the violent man. He is not a nice fellow. Of course, I don't know about you. I'm thinking about when I read this, especially there in verse 2, I'm thinking about Psalm 120, that begins the Ascent Psalms, and he's in Meshech in the tents of Kedar, and the people there they're set for war. War is all they want to talk about. Violence is in their hearts. And the psalmist says, I'm for peace, but when I speak, they're for war. So I think about the man who begins his trek towards Jerusalem because he's surrounded by this kind of person. They're ready for war. They're gathered together for war. Look at that in verse 2. But also I want to notice this, and I mentioned this in the intro, their mischief is in their hearts. And then notice what it says in 3. They have sharpened their tongues. Adder's poison is under their lips. So the tongue and the lips is mentioned here. These are issues of the heart. Jesus taught us that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And that is so true. And we find it right here in this psalm. What's in their heart? Mischief is in their heart. War is in their heart. So what are they saying? Well, they've sharpened their tongues like a serpent, like they're sharpening a sword. Poison is under their lips. Why? Because mischief and war is in their heart. And so that's what's coming out as they speak. So they're identified by how they communicate. Join me again next time. Tomorrow, we're going to look at verses 4 and 5 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. I'm David Smith. The music today has been performed by the Bluegrass Experiment. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time on Daily Dose Radio.